Hey church, today we're going to talk about chapter 15 of Matthew. So just for a quick overview, we start off and we've got the Pharisees being a little crazy because they see the disciples not following some rules that they have in place. And they want a plaque saying all disciples must wash hands before grabbing from field or something like that. Then we go into Jesus heals a bunch of people. Then Jesus calls some lady a dog, basically. We'll get back to that here in a second. And then, of all things, Jesus feeds a bunch of people again, but only 4,000 this time, so no big deal. All right, so let's go to the first section of Matthew chapter 15 that we really want to focus on today. So Matthew 15, verses 17 through 20. It says, "Do you not see that whatever goes into the mouth passes into the stomach and is expelled? But what comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart, and this defiles a person. For out of the heart comes evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false witness, slander. These are what defile a person. But to eat what is unwashed, eat with unwashed hands does not defile anyone." So we get a little bit of an anatomy lesson and biology of how things work within our stomach, which is kind of cool. Like with Yeshua being the ultimate doctor and all, he understands how our bodies work. So, really what kind of caught me here, and this is what we're going to focus on with that verse, and this relates to Psalm chapter 19, verse 14. It says, "Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be pleasing to you." So I think most of us have always been able to sufficiently dig a hole for ourselves with our mouths. These are amazing digging, excavating tools that the Lord has gifted us with. But with that, if we start looking at the way that we can get ourselves out of that hole, is to not think about the words that we are saying, but how we're saying it. That was a phrase that I grew up with my entire childhood. Was if somebody got in trouble, it wasn't, "Hey, you shouldn't have said that." It was, generally speaking, the answer was, it wasn't what you said, it was how you said it. Think of like a backhanded compliment. That's the most applicable sense of a sentence that I've heard and that could think of when thinking about this section. Was somebody says something great, but in a way that really just hits you so that you feel real awful, and it's just gross when you hear it, you know? So that is us saying something, but the heart, the intentions behind what we say being just underneath it, being filling up the motivation of what we're saying. So with that, these are the few times where your words actually speak a lot louder than your actions. So I'm going to kick it back to another verse at this point, though. So we're going to go to Proverbs for this one. It's Proverbs 26, 23 through 28. And man, this is a stinger. So let's look at this. It says, "Like the glaze covering an earthen vessel are the fervent lips with an evil heart. Whoever hates disguises himself with his lips and harbors deceit in his heart. When he speaks graciously, believe him not, for there are 7 abominations in his heart." I'll stop it there. You should definitely read the entire section because it calls you out for whenever you felt like you're saying something. You're gonna need some aloe. This is gonna burn. So a smooth talker or somebody with narcissistic and self-centered attitude knows how to aptly say exactly what's gonna please your heart, what's gonna make you feel like, oh man, I've got this. And they're gonna do it generally by kind of just sprinkling. They're gonna season their sentences with it. They're not gonna just come out and blast you with it. We know how to easily avoid those things. So that's what we have to be careful of, is when our heart speaks, it's just kind of seasons every sentence we say. It perforates every word, every thought that we have, every sentence that we say to a loved one. There's just something in here that will come out. So we have to be careful what our heart is saying when we speak. And sometimes when you hear something and it doesn't hit right, it really hits you in the gut. So it's awesome to see that comparison between the gut and the heart coming forward when you really think about hearing a good word and hearing something that just hits you real wrong. But obviously, we could think of something negative to say, or obviously it gives this list of adulterous thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, things that are that bad. But I want to make it harder. I feel like when Yeshua spoke, he made things a little bit more challenging for us. So let's look at this and say, do you complain? Are you full of excuses for something when you speak? Do you have a root of bitterness that comes up when you share your thoughts, when you just everyday conversations? Is there some little essence or sprinkling of something in there? Like, that is what's really challenging. I can go my entire life without thinking about adultery, but the entire time, if I trying to live my life without complaining or having an excuse for why I didn't do something, that makes that so much harder. But that's where my heart is. My heart is full of like, well, I'm important. There's a pride issue here. So it's going to think of things like complaining, or it's going to have an excuse for why I didn't do something out of my laziness. So when our faith is in action, when we're requesting things from the Lord, but our heart is not focused on those things, when our heart is focused on the pride and lust and whatever that may be, how do we expect our faith to be given to us by actions of like prayer? When we ask the Lord for something, our faith is challenged because our heart is not fully committed to it. So like, think about that situation with the Canaanite woman. He basically calls her a dog, which is a really weird situation. I'm definitely not the guy to fully talk about that. I'm going to leave that to Brent. If you want to find him, I'll be asking him myself. But for that situation, what really proved is that she, even though she knew that she didn't have the right to ask, she kept asking, and she had complete faith in who God was. And so her ability to be humble and to have steadfast faith in Yeshua's ability to heal her daughter surpassed anything about who she was, her actual character, because her faith spoke when she spoke. Her heart's intentions came out. So imagine if you did that. Imagine if your heart was so close to Christ that when you spoke, it was felt. That it wasn't I'm going to have to take a moment to digest that. It was literally like, my heart flutters because of how close to Christ that you are when you speak. I hope and pray that that's our words, that we are better people for that. Let us watch our words. Let us focus on our heart issues not being forced out of our mouth and into every conversation. Let our conversations speak Christ, because he is what is founded in our heart. I pray that you have a blessed day.